So hi, and welcome to Noise Violation Podcast. Today, our guest teaches, inspires at conferences all over the world, including the Nantucket Yoga Festival, the Young Presidents Organization, Prana Fest, Women's Wellness, Longevity Now, the Yoga Chant Fest, and Yoga for Peace. She is an author, entrepreneur, founder of 5 Prana Yoga Studios. She's a happy supermom of 5, graduate of Brown University and Columbia University, law of attraction, mindfulness-based coach, law of attraction, mindfulness-based therapy, founder of Prana Restaurant, the first raw vegan restaurant in Newton, Massachusetts, Scout and Seller Associate Manager. Please welcome Taylor Wells. Taylor, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yes. Is there anything you don't do? Wow.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer like you. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah. So I know we were talking earlier before the podcast, and I wanted you to do this on the podcast. And you said you have a ritual for how you start interviews before we get started. Could you take us through that process?
Yeah, sure. So any interview or meeting of any kind, Blake and everyone, I take a moment to set an intention for this time together. And I ask whoever I am talking with or working with if they would like to do the same. It's their choice. And I also call in the Reiki. So I'm a Reiki master, and I call in the Reiki, which is just another word for energy. So I'm going to just be silent for a little bit. Actually, to begin, I also do this. I help people with breath, because oftentimes we forget to breathe fully, especially now, Blake, during this kind of crazy time out there in the world. It's a really useful, helpful thing to breathe. And so I'm going to teach you guys this thing, very simple. It's called box breath. Okay. So you inhale, and I like to add my little touch, which is inhale light for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold that light in for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then exhale fear and stress for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then hold that exhale for 4, 3, 2, and 1. So that's box breath, and you can do that, Blake and everyone, anytime when you're feeling stress, or you just want to kind of clear your head or begin again. It's very yogic. Also, people are talking about having difficulty sleeping right now in this international climate. And so that's a really helpful thing to do, everyone, when you're tossing and turning. Okay, and sometimes you'll feel resistance. Your mind will be like, I don't want to do that stupid breathing. And that's when you really, really need to do it, because I have resistance too. I'm just like all of you, and I do all these practices myself. And when I feel like, oh, I don't want to do box breath, I know I really need to do it. All right, so if you'd like, close your eyes and set an intention for this time together. And I'm going to do the same in silence as I call in the Reiki. Okay, awesome. So what are we doing today?
Yeah, can you share what was going on as you're calling the Reiki? Is
That's
that
like a
secret?
whole thing. That's like saying, can you tell me how to get a PhD? It's like it's a whole training, and it's energy work.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something that people come to you to learn. Do you teach people
I actually
that?
don't. I could do that. I do not. I do not do Reiki trainings. That's one thing I don't do. When in answer to your question, I could. I choose to just heal remotely with my Reiki, which is what I was doing, and utilize it in that way. So I teach I mostly teach people how to utilize the law of attraction to create the life of their dreams. So I kind of do that more broad-based.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on the law of attraction for people who might not have ever heard of it?
Sure.
What does it do, and how do people utilize it, or some practices that they could do to, to accept things in their life?
Yeah, absolutely. So the law of attraction is like gravity. It's not something that can be debated, or I mean, I guess you could debate it, but I'm not here to kind of convince anyone of anything. What I teach people to do is to utilize this law, which is just like gravity. It's always at work, to create the life of your dreams and what you want. So it's all about the power of the focus of your mind, okay? So there's myriad of things that we could be focusing on in any moment. And what we choose to focus on grows and creates our reality. I wrote a book about this. It's called Create the Best Life Ever. And I wrote an inspiration. Oh, there it is.
I got it too.
Yay, I'm so glad. I wrote an inspiration card deck about it. And the reason I'm doing this plugging is because it's that important to me. And it's that, I basically was doing, a bazillion years ago, I was doing consulting and teaching people about this. And I was charging a lot of money per hour on purpose, because when I would just tell people about it, as I was wont to do during, after teaching yoga at my yoga studios, people weren't as apt to listen and to utilize the practices. And then I realized I had guidance, universal guidance to charge money, and then people would listen and they would do it. And you know what? It worked. When they paid a lot of money per hour to have me tell them how to utilize the law of attraction, they did it, and it worked 100% of the time when they utilized the practices. So I also wrote the inspiration card deck, because during those consults, Blake, I would say to them, okay, so write down, positive statements that make you feel good. And I would give them examples, and they'd be like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I was finally like, oh, okay, I'll just publish a deck. So I did, for that reason. And so, for example, here's a card that says, everything is unfolding as it should, okay? The other side says, this moment is as it should be. Now, the idea, here's another one. There are 52 cards, two-sided. What I think about and focus on most appears in my life, okay?
Yeah.
Whatever I picture, I will get. So these are kind of bite-sized nuggets that are describing what's in my book, and that help people. It's a tool to help people to utilize the law, which I'm going to get to back to defining.
Yeah, my girlfriend Erica, she actually has that deck of cards, and she draws one every day, just a reminder, or some positive affirmation, or some words to increase her positivity throughout the day. And so it's a great deck of cards for anyone getting into the law of attraction, or that needs some help and inspiration.
Which, by the way, is everyone, including yours truly. I use my cards every day. I also use handwritten cards that are coming out in new decks. You could ask my 5 kids. They're all over the house. They choose them at night and put them on their cereal bowl for the morning. When they go to school, when they went to school, now they're on Zoom school, but I would put them in their lunch boxes. I would also give them to their teachers. And because we all need it, we're all human, and we all need to remember moment to moment to release the past and the future and abide in the ever-present now. And right now, this time in history, this couldn't be more poignant because we are all literally being forced to do that. Otherwise, we feel fear and anxiety and or depression, okay? So usually, when you feel depression, you're in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, when you feel anxiety, you're in the future.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can learn each moment to be present in this moment and go, okay, I'm here, I'm okay, we can alleviate most of the anxiety and depression. Now, back to the law of attraction. The most amazing thing about the law of attraction is that we have the ultimate power to create anything that we want in any moment. And it's all up to us. Now, what I usually see with people, Blake, is when I work with people, which is all the time, and I love to do it. I do now I work with people on Zoom internationally, and I work on the phone as well. What I see day in and day out is people are like, okay, I did that. When they see something that they love in their life, I did that. Something they're proud of, I did that, Taylor. And then when they see something that stinks, they're like, well, I wouldn't have done that. Why would I do that? Okay. And it's a great question. The reason that we do things like that is just because we're unaware. We're unaware of the thoughts that we're thinking to create whatever that is. And the great news is that that, which I also call contrast, so it's the opposite of what we want, teaches us what we do want. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So by living the contrast, we go, ugh, I don't want that. Now, the key to the law of attraction is the universe does not hear no. It doesn't hear negatives. So I teach my clients and my customers to not talk about what they don't want in the negative, but instead to talk in the present tense about what they do want in the affirmative. So an example would be, I am healthy. Okay, instead of the opposite, which I won't even honestly say because I'm such a powerful manifester that I won't even say the other example, which you can figure out. But we're all in this together, and we're all creating it a moment at a time. No one is above or below. We're all on the same playing field moment to moment, okay? And you can look at someone's life and see what they're thinking about. And notice the people who, you know, those people, they're like, you know, they think about something and boom, they manifest it or they create it. Manifest is another word for create. And how do they do that? You know how they do it, Blake, and everybody, they've practiced it. It's just a muscle. It's honestly not complicated at all, but it does require discipline. And that's where this comes in. You know, what I think about and focus on most appears in my life. Here's a card I love. It's everyone thinks I'm pure positive energy. Everyone thinks I'm pure positive. And I love this one too. I tell the stories that line me up with who I really am. So that goes back, Blake, to how often everyone tells stories about what they don't want. Like if you walk into Starbucks, which you can't do right now, but let's say it was like 3 weeks ago and you walked into Starbucks. If you went up to every single table and eavesdropped, if you were a fly sitting on the table, 99.9% of those conversations were talking about things that people didn't want. I hate this. I don't like that. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Now, I'm actually trained as a clinical psychologist, and I am absolutely not suggesting repression or denial. Okay? That will make you sick, and it's not a good idea. So you don't want to take a happy face sticker and put it over your gas tank when it's on empty and be like, oh, I don't need gas. You need to be real, right?
Right.
What I suggest is that you find one person with which to speak about something that is upsetting to you or some contrast, and then speak about it, feel it, own it, and do not dwell. So, so the key is, what am I dwelling on? What am I focusing on? Does that make sense?
Right. So you're being realistic with yourself and stating what makes you unhappy or maybe a problem that you have, but you're not dwelling on it. You're looking for opportunities to grow from it, or to change it, or to move into what you want. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. Well said. I couldn't say it any better. And remember that you'll never get it done and you can't get it wrong. Okay. So we're always going to be creating situations of contrast to show us what we do want. They will get softer and easier with time. So AKA no drama. Like, we don't need the drama and the suffering. We can, and with time and practice. So I used to be a competitive tennis player, and I hit a lot of backhands, okay? And I like to use that analogy because I say to people, my clients, and also people on my Clean Crafted Wine team, I tell them, just keep hitting your backhands. Just keep hitting the backhands. So what that means is we all just need to practice and have discipline to do that practice. And it will get easier and softer with time. And, you know, when you're in drama and suffering, you know, that's a lot of contrast. That feels bad. So you don't want to be doing that. And that you just note that, okay, you know, I want this to be different, and what I want is this. And then you use the power of the it all comes down to the power of the focus of your mind. And you will get distracted. You will have people, places, and things that will try to pull you in, okay? Especially if you've been being negative for a while, you're going to have people who don't like that you're focusing on the good stuff that you want because it feels uncomfortable to them. And that's okay. You make a choice to still focus on the things that you want, being real about the things that you don't want, but not dwelling. And then you just allow them to have whatever their experience is. It's not ever our job to change or fix anyone. In fact, we cannot do it.
Right. And to go on the practice thing, I hear sometimes it's like people have a certain tendency, whether it's depression or anxiety or, you know, dwelling on a problem they have. And a way to get out of that is to actually, you know, fake it, like fake a smile. If you fake a smile for a little while, then, you know, your mind will think you're happy. And so,
I love it, Blake. Fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. Now, that's a great segue into explaining something else about the law of attraction. So my cards really work. I tell the stories that line up with what I really want. However, the universe hears what you mean, not what you say.
That's important.
So, right? So now that might sound like I'm contradicting myself and you, but I'm not. So basically, you fake it till you make it. You start with faking the smile, like just smile, just make a decision. Okay. Honestly, happiness is a choice, moment to moment. And there's always something in this moment on which you can focus that you have to feel grateful for, always. And I learned that as a 5-year-old. I learned that in a challenging environment. I noticed that when I focused on something that I liked versus something I didn't like, whatever I focused on got bigger. And that taught me amazing things at age 5. And I learned discipline in that way. And now I can teach all of you because of that experience, okay? So I like to think about the cards as sort of the beginning of your education in law of attraction. So you learn to say the words, okay? And then with time, you learn to feel the words. So feel them. Like, what does it feel like to feel grateful? What will it feel like to have this thing that I want, whatever the thing is that you're wanting? And remember, you never get it done and you can't get it wrong. So a person wants something. What I say to them is, why do you want it? Well, because I just want it. But why? What will it feel like? And then when they can feel how it's going to feel to have whatever that thing is, say it's love, what's it going to feel like? Feel that love. The moment that they can feel that love, Blake, and pulse that out to the universe, it's done. It's done. It will be immediately returned through law of attraction. So that is the law. The law is what I put out comes back.
That's awesome. So where did you learn the law of attraction? I assume they didn't teach it at Columbia or Brown. How did you get into the law of attraction?
So as a young child, I learned that what I focused on got bigger. I lived some contrast, and through trial and error and honestly survival, I realized I got to focus on the good stuff and make that get bigger, because there's always good stuff on which to focus, no matter what situation you're in. And it's really important for people to hear that right now, because people are feeling despair and a lot of fear. Well, there's two things. There's fear or love when you just generally, boil it down. But under the fear, there's, a lot of anxiety, depression, despair happening. We're being asked to tune in and tap into ourselves, to our own inner resources on a spiritual level. We're being asked to do that internationally. So this is the time. This is the time to have that discipline. So as a very young child, I learned it, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was called the law of attraction. I just knew what to do to make things go well.
Did you have a mentor that introduced you?
No. No, I just went inside and went real deep because I needed to. Sometimes when you go low, you got to go higher. So I did that. I tapped into that. And then in time, of course, I've had mentors over the years with, I was actually before tennis, I figure skated, and I was training to go to the Olympics. And I loved my coach very much. He was wonderful. That's a whole separate story. I got the skating rink burnt down, I thought, and then only years and years later, my husband said to my best friend from kindergarten, "Did the rink really burn down?" And she goes, "No, it's still there." So that was kind of a story I was told. My parents were like done with taking me at 5 a.m, which I get. I totally get that. Anyway, I switched to tennis. And then I, of course, had mentors with tennis. I had wonderful tennis coaches. I actually lived with my tennis coach, who's now quite famous, Nick Bollettieri. He ended up training Andre Agassi and many other Jimmy Arias, who actually I lived at Nick's house with Jimmy before he had the academy, etc. My sports and my coaches taught me a lot about discipline, which is very key to the law of attraction. It's all about the power of the focus of your mind. You have a choice in each moment. No one is doing anything to you ever, ever. It's all you. It's all up here. And when we can step back and take responsibility and own our power and go, I did that, and I did that, and learn from the stuff that kind of stinks and go, wow, how and why did I attract that? And then learn how to pulse out to the universe the feelings and the things that we do want. Like, let's say someone wants a material thing. By the way, there's nothing wrong with material things or money. It's all good. It's just energy. Let's say someone wants a material thing. Let's say a car. I'll use that example because that's not something I would ever care about whatsoever. So someone wants a car. And like, I don't even know the names of the cars in my driveway. So that's how much I don't care. But let's say it's a car. So what I would say is, okay, what is it about the car that you want? Well, I just want a car. but what does that represent to you? So maybe it represents, joy and, speed and freedom. So feel those things. What does joy feel like? What does freedom feel like? What does speed feel like? Momentum, speed. So I teach my clients how to feel that and then pulse that out. And then again, Blake, once you pulse that out, actually, once you even ask for it, it's done. You just have to get out of your own way.
Right. And so I guess if people have never felt those things, is there a way to introduce those feelings inside of them? Do they already have to know? I guess maybe it's like easy for somebody who knows what joy is, but I think people who really lack those feelings in their life, how do you get them to enhance those feelings or feel more of them? If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's a great question. So the time to which I'm referring, when I was quite young, I was in the middle of, really a lot of contrast, let's say. And it is my strong belief and knowing, because I lived through that in any moment you can find something on which to focus and feel grateful for. So if people think it has to be like a big thing, like I can't feel joy because I haven't had this big thing, but it could be something as quote unquote inconsequential as, for example, the first sip of a cup of coffee. Like that first sip of coffee, like what tiny thing, anything gives you some joy. It doesn't have to be, I was going to look for my card that says today is the best day ever. That's one of the cards. And I was going to use this example that some of my cards won't be appropriate with someone who is struggling with depression, who can't get out of bed, who can't find joy. Okay. And so that card, they want to just whip out the window. What? I don't like Taylor Wells, like whatever. Things have always been easy for her. She doesn't get it, blah, blah, blah. Now, way back when people would say that to me, and they have, I would argue for my limitations, meaning I would have to go back and be like, let me tell you what I've gone through, which I don't do anymore because that's not walking my talk. So what's important is that in the now, wherever you are, whether you can't get out of bed in the morning because you're depressed or despairing, you find something that feels just a little bit better. So you're not going to go from despair, Blake, to today is the best day ever. That's a quantum leap, and you're not going to, you could. Anything is possible, but it's unlikely. What I coach people to do, Blake, is to just find a little bit better feeling thought, okay? So if you can't find joy, you have found joy at some point in your life. You may just not remember it now. So what I coach people to do is to find something. So it could be that first sip of coffee. It could be anything. And in fact, in my book, as you know, when I talk about yoga, I talk about practicing yoga. I do this on purpose every day. And that's whatever makes you feel, go to your happy place or feel better. So it could be gardening. It could be baking. It could be reading. It could be taking a hot bath.
Okay. So it's like a spark, and then you take care of that spark, and eventually it comes into a full fire. And if you keep feeding it, then you'll have a big bonfire, which is your best life ever.
Yes. However, it's always about the now, and it's not like you make the bonfire and you're done. You're never done. You're always using these tools. I use these tools every day. I wake up at 4 a.m. every single day. That's where the discipline comes from Nick Bollettieri and my Wally, my ice skating coach. I was on the ice at 5 a.m. in kindergarten. Okay. So I'm blessed that because I had that as an athlete, I have that discipline, but anyone can create discipline. Anyone can do any of this, which is why I wrote the book and the deck, because I felt like not everyone could afford to come to consulting or coaching, and I could only meet with one person at a time. So I do this every day. I get up at 4. I go to bed early. I go to bed at 8 so I can get up at 4 because I know that my day goes better. And I'm not saying you have to do that, you guys. It took me a long time I was a night owl, and it took me actually 6 years to train myself to do that, from the day that I decided that I wanted to wake up at 4 when I was reading Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Intention. And he said he got up at 4 to write. I said, I want that. It took 6 years, you guys, for me to create that. But anyway, yes, you're very wise, and it's a little spark of something a little better. So remember, you're not going to go from I can't get out of bed to today's the best day ever. But you can, a card that would work on that day a little bit. Oh, this is interesting. Would be I can do this. I can do this. Okay. And by the way, the other side is today is the best day ever.
The contract.
The contract. I can do that. I can get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
I can get out of bed. I can get dressed. Like what? It's incremental, you guys. So, we've all been there. We've all been there. And it's the vicissitudes of life. And we're going through one right now. All right. Mm-hmm. We're going through this right now as a world.
Yeah. And I think that leads into my next question is, there's a lot of despair and trouble and turmoil and people losing their jobs. And I noticed that you started your book with a page about gratitude. And so would this be another tool to light that spark? Can you talk about gratitude a little bit?
Absolutely. So gratitude and love are the highest vibrations that exist. So everything is energy, okay? Back to law of attraction. Everything is energy. And the things that I teach about law of attraction, if you go, after listening to this podcast and go to Google and Google Einstein quotes, you'll be like, oh my God, this is what Taylor was talking about. So Einstein was talking about the law of attraction, okay? A lot of the greats were. And so energy is everything. So imagine when you are with a person and you just feel amazing when you're with that person. It's not most likely because of the car that they drive or their house or material things. It's because of how they make you feel. So I think it was Maya Angelou said, they'll forget what you said and what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So that's energy. Okay. So gratitude is a very, very high vibration, high energy, love and gratitude. And so when I used to teach yoga at my yoga studio, so I had 5 yoga studios in Boston, and in Massachusetts and New York City for 16 years. And when I would teach and I would ask people I would put them in a pose called gratitude pose. And I would ask them to bow to something or someone in their life that they have to feel grateful for. And when I tell you that the energy in that room changed immediately, it was incredible. So, we had like a lot of people in those classes, like 50 people. Imagine 50 people bowing in gratitude. And these are people who are going through tough times. Like a lot of people show up to yoga when they're at a transition, when they're pivoting in their life, when they're at a fork, when they're despairing. That's when they would show up usually. And then they would love it, and then they would continue coming, and they would transform and the whole thing, which was just beautiful to watch. But my point is gratitude. As I said before, no matter where you are, you guys, there's something on which you can focus to feel grateful. And, if you can't find it, try getting quiet for a little bit in your mind. That's also called meditation, but I don't want to scare you away with the word, because people think, ooh, I have to light incense, I have to sit on a special cushion, I have to sit up straight and all that. No, all you have to do is set an intention that I want to quiet my mind. I just want to take a little break here. And when you practice this, remember it's a muscle. In time, you guys, it will feel like a vacation. Like, I love my meditation. And I'm a very active person. I have a lot of energy. So for me to be able to sit still or lie down is a big deal. But it takes time and practice, and all you need to do is set an intention and do it. And you could start with a minute, 1 minute. That's it. And then work your way up to 2 minutes and 3 minutes, etc. And what will happen is you'll start to feel better. Maybe not today is the best day ever better, but a little bit better. Remember, incrementally. And so then you will do it again. Okay. So I used to tell people that about prana power yoga. I used to say, come at least 3 times before you decide that you don't like it. Because once you get hooked, once it makes you feel better, you will keep coming back. So same thing with meditation, and back to gratitude. When you find something on which to focus, you will feel your mood begin to lift, something on which to focus that you're grateful for. And again, it could be, you guys, it could be a sip of coffee. It could be a sip of coffee.
That makes me feel grateful. The smell of coffee always brings a warmness, and then the sip of coffee in the morning always brightens me up. So when you had this gratitude, where did your 3 practice formula for creating the best life ever come from? How did you get those 3 things, and what are they?
Great. Thank you. Yeah, great question. So the 3 practices. So again, backing up a little bit, the reason I wrote my book is because people would on a daily basis ask me 3 things, or 4. I'll know as I say them. How do you do everything that you do? 1. Are you really that happy? Do you ever sleep? And I'm forgetting the 4th one. But it would happen all day, and they would keep asking these questions, and I would try to explain to them in the moment, Blake, like I'd be at Trader Joe's, or I'd be at the soccer field, or I'd be at the end of teaching a yoga class, but there'd be like 20 people in line waiting to talk, so you can't talk for a long time. So I'd try to explain to them, oh, yes, I sleep 8 hours every night. Yes, I'm really this happy most of the time. I'm human, and so of course I have my off moments. And I would answer those questions, and I would try to explain how. I would try to explain the law of attraction. I would try to explain yoga, and I never had enough time with that person to do so. So decided to do the consulting and then the book and the deck. So I realized, what do I do? What do I do every day to make this happen? And you guys, it wasn't like a poof, thing that I decided one day I'm going to do these 3 things. I just noticed over time, this is what I do, and it works for me. And so the 3 principles are very simple. 1 is what we're talking about now. I utilize the law of attraction, or deliberate creation. So deliberately creating using the law of attraction. So I watch my thoughts and my words, mindful that they are focusing on what I want and what I want to create instead of the alternative. The second thing, and these aren't in order of importance at all, is yoga. Yoga. So for me personally, it's yoga asana, which is a physical yoga practice that for me is just a perfect fit. I'm a very high energy person. I need my yoga practice to ground me and focus me and calm me. And as I explained earlier, your yoga is whatever brings you to a place of feeling calmer, more focused, more happy, more joy. Remember, incrementally, okay? Whatever lets you, okay? So maybe it's a bath, maybe it's baking, maybe it's reading. One of my dear friends, I remember her saying to me, yeah, I don't want to do yoga at your studios, but my yoga is reading. And that was her thing. And she would just get her 3 beautiful kids down at night and just dive into her book, whatever that book was. And then the third principle that I noticed that I do every single day is eating and drinking all foods and beverages, liquids that you believe in. I want to be clear that I'm not a proponent of any type of anything. Whatever you believe in, awesome.
So is that like a healthy belief, or is that like a what is
So
believe in?
the reason I say that is in my, actually I say all foods in moderation, and that upsets some people saying like, well, I don't like this food, or I don't like that food, or I don't believe in it. So what I mean is all foods you believe in and love according to your beliefs and body in moderation. Now, the point is not to restrict, okay?
Right.
And this is why. I've had my share of restriction in my life with food and with liquid or beverages. And I write about this in my book. So what's interesting about restriction, you guys, is that if you think about the law of attraction, remember the universe doesn't hear no. It doesn't hear no. So you say, I want to be healthy. You don't say the opposite. And when you're restricting or saying no to something, and again, if you have health issues or, you're clean and sober or things like that, I understand, believe me, I understand all that. So there are many different circumstances. How, in general, the energy of restriction, like brass knuckling, can be a lower vibration. Okay, so I'm going to speak about myself because then you guys will be off the hook. I was raw vegan, which means I didn't eat animal products at all, and I didn't cook any of my food for 7 years without cheating. Okay, and my whole family. So the reason without cheating is because I whole chapter on a book about why it's like this whole magical synchronicity of what happened, and so I'm not going to ruin it here. It's a fun chapter. The whole time I was raw vegan, I was actually raw vegan. Like I wasn't like pretending. And then so when I stopped, and I told one of my very dear friends, who's still a very dear friend, why I stopped and that we were going to eat all foods in moderation, she was silent. I said, I was on the phone, I was on are you there? I go, what's going on? I go, judge. And she said to me, Taylor, I have not been 100% raw for years. And I was like, what? And so come to find out, I'm talking to all these people and they're just like, yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, I actually really was 100% raw. So anyway, my point is not judging them. I was giggling because retrospectively, I think that all foods that you believe in and that work body in moderation is it's back to the Buddha, right? The middle way. It's moderation. It's all. Now, I do coaching also for people who need help with their body image and balancing their weight and things like that, finding joy in that instead of struggle and suffering. And what I teach them is to eat to 3/4 full and not to cut anything out, again, unless you have, beliefs, or you see how I keep covering myself here, or medical issues. Here's what happens. When you allow yourself to eat anything and everything that you want whenever you want, and in fact, I encourage people to eat frequently, every couple hours, so they can have firing, and so that they know that they can have whatever they want and they don't have to freak out and hoard. What people is an incredible feeling of freedom and joy, and they realize that they, on some level, had been restricting at some point in their life. I find it very unusual to find someone who's never done that for whatever reason. I know 2 people who I'm not going to say because they'd be horrified, but I know 2 people who have never done that. But the point is, when you allow yourself all moderation and you eat to 3/4 full, there's more food around the bend. Jerry Seinfeld has a great bit about his mom saying, don't. He jokes that, I love Seinfeld. He jokes that there's another appetite coming around the bend, right?
Right.
And so the idea, Blake, is that you can, by eating to 3/4 full, number one, when longevity has been studied throughout the world in history, those who have been healthiest and live longest eat to 3/4 full. So they never kind of eat to that sick feeling, and eat a variety of foods in moderation. So those are the three principles. It's yoga, whatever you love, and then allowing yourself to eat all the foods and drink all the beverages you believe in moderation.
Yeah, and then to keep going with the diet topic, you also have a chapter about having an eating disorder. And so where do you think that comes from, that people kind of shame their body or shame, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but what kind of advice can you give to people that have a disorder, an eating disorder, and how can they get over it?
So when I was in my doctoral program, I worked at Harvard University for one of my internships at the Bureau of Study Council, which is it's actually a counseling center, but they call it Bureau of Study Council. Years ago, when it originated, people had shame about for therapy, that they pretended it was for, tutoring, and they just kept that name. So when I was there, I had quite a few things on my vita around helping people with eating. We called it eating concerns, so we never used the word disorder. Around eating concerns. So I had worked for the Massachusetts Eating Disorder Association, MEDA. And anyway, so what happened was, when I was doing that internship, my caseload was like immediately full, like day one, because people saw that on my vita, and it was just rampant at Harvard. Oh my goodness, so much suffering going on. And so first of all, just to kind of reframe it as, eating concern, even though I do call it the eating disorder in my book. So it's a very ginormous topic on which I would need a lot of time to talk about.
Right.
Cover it fully. But what I can say, Blake, is that most people have a lot of shame around it and feel very isolated and alone. And it is so common. And like I said, I know two women, and I know a lot of people. I know two women who have never struggled, close friends. So it's very, very common, and it's there are many philosophies and psychologies around disordered eating and body dysmorphia. What I can say is that when I struggled with it in college, I was struggling with quitting tennis, which had been my whole life and identity, and felt very confused and grasping, really, for some sense of control. And that was a distraction for me, honestly. And I kind of smile as I look back, because I've always been a big eater. I've always had a fast metabolism and been a big eater. So I still continue to eat a lot of food, but I was very focused on calories and restriction. And so being distracted by that and not being able to be fully present in the moment.
Do you think that's a learned behavior? Do you think it's like people telling themselves, or does it come from external or internal?
I don't think there's one answer to that. I think that it's pervasive in our culture, clearly. I think that most of us grew up with it in some way, shape, or form in our family, whether it was, some sort of disordered eating, whether it's restriction or eating too much, or everything in between. And it's really been there throughout history. If you look back at kind of how people were trying to maintain control or have some sort of power when they felt powerless. I think it's a way that people try to maintain some semblance of control and power. And
Right.
I think it's oftentimes so secretive that I feel that is one of the most painful parts. And so to just kind of alleviate people's fear around, like, I'm, something's wrong with me and I'm weird and I'm so different. I think everyone at some point has struggled with in some way, shape, or form, and there is help out there. And you absolutely 100% can heal yourself. And there is help, and you can heal yourself from that. And so, the idea is to get to the point of being able to allow yourself, all foods and beverages you believe in moderation, and to have that is an ultimate power to be like, I allow myself this and I deserve this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. People always told me, it's like, hey, you're too skinny, you need to eat more. And I was like, I think it's just the reverse of what other people go through.
I think that is, go ahead, tell me more about that.
Yeah, and I think that's just my experience growing up. Was people are always trying to force food on me, and then it's like, no, I'm not hungry, or I don't want it, or I was always a picky eater. And so that was my experience, just with externally people, pushing their ideals or what somebody should and shouldn't do onto me. And I could see how it can affect people if they let it sink in, or if they believe in what other people are saying or telling them. But yeah, that's just my experience.
I love that you said that, Blake, because I've had this discussion with people around how deleterious that is to people. It's unconscionable how many times I've heard that. People have said that to me, like, you're too thin. Like, I admittedly had an eating disorder for a certain amount of time, and then I healed from it. And then I just have this genetic build for, and I'm grateful for it, honestly. Like, I can eat whatever I want and be healthy and trim. Now, that said, I also like to eat healthy and put good things in my body. And so I find that there are a lot of projections out there. And I think I think that it would be like totally unacceptable for someone to say to someone, you're so big. Why are you so big? Stop eating so much. Whereas it seems to be okay to say, you're so small. Why, or Blake, you're so skinny, eat more. And it's kind of interesting to see that kind of non-PC and PC, et cetera. So I think it's a really good point, because basically people are who they are, and that's their, their physicality. And I think it's really challenging for anyone to stand on the outside and say, you should be this or you shouldn't be that. And you should eat this and you shouldn't eat that. I think it's again, back to law of attraction. That is our ultimate power, is that we can choose our thoughts, and we can choose, how we are in this physical body suit that we're in on this planet.
Yeah, that's great. And then also, to transition, you have a chapter about transitions. And so I pulled a quote from your book that I really liked. And it says, "We are in transitions more often than not, becoming, not being. Yoga can turn life into a dance, I call it living in the flow. And so what really stood out to me is the becoming, is not being. So we're not stuck just being who we are. We are who we are becoming. And so I really got a lot out of that quote. And then it says, yoga can turn life into a dance. I call it living in the flow. What is the flow?
I love it. So the flow is this moment. The flow is releasing the past and the future and being in the ever present now. So Blake, have you ever been doing something and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I think 3 hours just went by. Where was I? Right? You were in the flow. You were in the flow, or in flow. People say in flow. So my very first spiritual teacher, Shiva, who I adore, calls it being in flow. Now, basically, I love to live in the flow. I love to basically listen in each moment. What do I feel like doing right now? And then choosing. So first, let me back up a bit. First, getting in alignment. So it's very, very important to first be in alignment. Otherwise, you can't be in flow. Okay. So how do you get in alignment? Your yoga. You got to do your yoga, whatever that is. I don't care. I don't care who you are or what your life is like. You make time to do that, even if it's 5 minutes. It's a discipline. Okay. So you find your yoga. Ideally, you meditate for at least a minute. And so you're in alignment. When you're in alignment, you ask yourself, what feels fun? Yes, I said fun. Okay. What feels fun? What do I feel like doing right now? Now, some people out there are like, well, she doesn't have to pay bills. Yes, I do. She doesn't have, yes, because guess what? You're going to pay those bills, by the way. You're going to be so efficient and productive if you get in alignment. And then you ask yourself, okay, what do I feel like doing right now? Because that's going to line you up with flow. And then once you choose, okay, this is what I feel like doing. And it could be something totally crazy, like I feel like going and getting a burger, which again isn't appropriate right now because we're on lockdown, but let's say we could go out. I teach my clients to listen to that because that is guidance, and listen to that. It oftentimes doesn't even sound like, but that's not on my to-do list. Do it anyway. Okay. So you're in alignment. You ask yourself, what do I feel like doing? Then focus on that thing. So let's say, since we're in this situation we're in, let's say I'm in the mood to write.
To pause you real quick, can I pause you? Is there a checklist or anything that you go through to make sure that you're in alignment?
So great question. I actually, it's funny because I send my Clean Crafted Wine team, I coach them all. I send them a checklist of first alignment, then focus, then momentum, then speed. So alignment, focus, momentum, speed. And that is pure joy. You will find that when you're in momentum and you have speed and you have been in alignment, you're going to feel that. Now, backing up, how do you get in alignment? I personally have been doing this for so long that I feel it. I'm a very visceral, physical person. Remember, I was, skating at 5, tennis. You need to find how you're in alignment, but basically you feel calm and clear and grounded. So you don't feel anxious, for example. You don't feel scattered, okay?
Yeah, it's a feeling you get, and then you start to focus.
Yeah. And let me tell you something, it's in that moment. Like I then move out of alignment. I feel then something happens. I have 5 kids. Something happens. I move out of alignment, and then I got to get myself back into alignment. So use your tools. You always keep going back to your tools, whatever your tools are. Remember, law of attraction, your yoga, and then all foods and drinks that you believe in moderation. So a point with that is I can get so in the flow that I forget to eat. So I have to remind myself every couple hours, I got to eat something, because I'm so in flow, and then it doesn't go well if I don't eat frequently because I get too hungry and then I'm all out of whack. Okay. So anyway, back to flow. You find your alignment, then you ask yourself, what do I feel like doing? And then you do it, and you find momentum, and then you have speed, and then there's nothing like it. And then you look back and you go, wow, I felt like doing that. For example, like cleaning out the cupboard. I'm a Virgo, so I do stuff like that. And it's like, wait, but I have like 10 million things on my to-do list that I should be doing. No, I just want to clean out this cupboard right now. I just really want to do it. So
Yeah.
I've trained myself. So I listen to that, and guess what? I'm cleaning out the cupboard, and I find something that reminds me of something that then I act upon, and then it makes like 10 things on my to-do list. Done.
Right. You're clearing out some stuff that's in there that you need to do so you can focus on the other stuff. That I do that too. I thought it was just procrastination. I was like, oh, finally I need to clean out my garage that I
So I don't believe in procrastination. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Buckle your seatbelt. So people like to beat themselves up in general, and because they're used to it, and it feels familiar. So it's like, oh, I'm procrastinating. I feel so bad. And I say to them, no, you're not. What are you doing right now? And they say, I'm cleaning out my garage. So my feeling is, by the way, as always, I usually say this at the beginning, take what you want and leave the rest. Okay? What fits, what works for you about what I say, go for it. What doesn't work, chuck it. Don't use it. So with cleaning out the garage, which by the way I've been doing as well, I believe that let's say you have your to-do list and you really, really don't want to do number one on the list. You really want to clean your garage. I say clean your garage. And I believe that you will be in alignment. And when you're in alignment and when you're hooked up with your best version of yourself, you are more powerful than millions who are not. So you can force yourself to do that to-do list, and you're going to be very inefficient. You're not going to get much done. It's going to suck. And you're not going to attract good stuff to you. Or you can listen to your heart, listen in that moment and be like, I feel like cleaning out the garage. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have faith, and I'm going to believe, and I'm going to do it. And it doesn't make any sense. I'm going to do it anyway. And then, there are many things that can happen. You can stumble across something in the garage that reminds you of something to call that person, and then you make that one call and all those things. Or you could have forced yourself to do those things, been grinding it out and gotten nothing done. So I guess what this all points to also is that it's all about joy. So if you're forcing yourself to do something in the moment that is suffering, I don't believe in it. I believe that even if you're clearing out the garage, perhaps you don't find something that leads you to call someone, but when you're done with clearing the garage, your vibration is high and you're like, yes. And then you make that one call that made the other 100 calls unnecessary. Okay. So you look around, Blake, and you see you got people working 20 hours a day or 18 hours a day, and they're like not getting anywhere. And then you see that person who just like, and it all goes well. They're leveraging time. They're leveraging the laws of the universe. Okay. And so procrastination, what I say to my coaching clients is, you're getting in alignment. Maybe you need to clean out that garage to get in alignment, and then you make that one phone call and all the other ones are unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, I like to hear that. So, so you talked about there for a second to end suffering. And I think one of your new projects that you're working on can bring light into people's life. And that's Scout and Cellar, your new wine business.
Yeah.
Talk about how that's going and what benefits that wine and your wine has.
So this lights me up right now. It's something that quite literally fell into my lap, and we know what that means, right? I attracted it. And I was actually running a networking luncheon that I run monthly in Barrington, Rhode Island, helping people connect and helping to support our community and other small businesses. And one of the founders of my company, Scout and Cellar, which is clean crafted wine, was at my networking meeting, unbeknownst to me. She just showed up. People show up, I don't know them. I greet them with a big hug, although now I can't because of social distancing. But I'm actually running it tomorrow, by the way, on Zoom if people want to join. So she was talking about her clean crafted wine, and she was in the middle of her pitch, Blake, and I literally interrupted her, which I've never done. And I stopped her and I go, did you say weed killer? Because she was saying that her wine didn't have weed killer in it. And I am totally into, as we all know, health and wellness and law of attraction and positivity. And I love drinking 5 ounces of wine at the end of a full day. I love it. I'm making my kids dinner, my chickens, and I relax. And I didn't know I was drinking weed killer. Okay, because I was drinking a wine that had, was touted as no sugar, but it was a mass-produced wine. So I called her the next day and I said, tell me about this wine. So it turns out that wine is not regulated. And so what it says on the label is not much. It says alcohol and sulfites. It does not say when there's weed killer. It does not say that there are animal products in it, etc. So this fired up because I want a choice. I want to be able to choose if I'm going to drink 2 Buck Chuck, which by the way I drank. I've never been a wine snob. I joke to people that what I know about wine is that I love to drink 5 ounces at the end of the day. But I don't want to drink weed killer, and I don't want to drink animal products and other yucky stuff that's in the wine. So what I learned about my company, which I jumped right on board educating. So we lead with education, Blake, about our wine. And so our wine is small. It's a baby company. It's only 2 years old, okay? Mm-hmm. And the founder, Sarah Shadnick, is a recovering attorney. So she is a level 3 sommelier, which means wine geek. And she was getting headaches after 1 glass of wine. And she was bummed out because it's a lot of work to be a sommelier. It's a lot of studying. And so she started researching it, Blake, and she kind of uncovered all these hidden truths about the mass-produced wine industry. So she left her law practice and founded my company called Scout and Cellar. And the reason it's called Scout and Cellar is because she scouts the world to find small family vineyards that will abide by our clean crafted standards. And what that means is our wine is organic, non-GMO, vegan, low sulfite. So you actually need to have sulfites or else it will be vinegar, but we just use 50 parts per million versus 1,000, for example. No added sugar. So most wine has like 16 grams of added sugar, which is like a donut. So if you want to eat a donut, eat a donut. Don't drink it in your wine, right? Like that's, yeah, at least have a donut. And no weed killer. It's no animal products. I think I said that. So it's none of the yucky stuff. And so it's better for you, but it's most importantly delicious. Like if it tasted terrible, who cares? So no one's going to drink it. So it should be said, I signed on before I tasted it because I was really passionate, which is one of the, about educating people, which is one of the core values. There's 5 core values of my company, which is be passionate, family first, passionate, do the right thing, transparency, and what's the 5th one? passion, transparency, do the right thing, I'll think of it. But it's all totally me. My friends were like, oh my God, that's so you. So what we do is we just tell people about it. We educate, and then the wine sells itself. It's really delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually very adamant that I was not going to build a team. When Sarah first started the company, she sold it in stores, our wine. And the reason that didn't work was because there wasn't someone explaining.
Yeah.
So people buy wine based on the label and the price, and what their friends drink. And so they didn't know. And so, we also lab test our wine before and after. So we know that there's no yucky stuff in it. And we also visit our vineyards.
That's awesome.
Make sure that they're doing. And we have like 50 plus wines now on our website. We started with 7.
Mm-hmm. So is this you go to the website and pick which ones you want? Is it a subscription where you get it delivered right to your door?
So I was saying that so now we do it, it's direct to consumer. So yeah, you go to my website, it's just scoutandcellar.com/Taylor Wells, and you know, there's over 50 wines, and one question I had for my friend Melissa was, can I buy 1 bottle?
Mm-hmm.
Because I just was so traumatized by all these, like, you have to buy this and this many and this many months, it's going to come I just couldn't. And she's like, sure, you can buy a bottle. So of course, as with anything, if you buy more, it's cheaper, but you can buy 1 bottle, so you could either do a bottle, you could do, $99 or more, you get free shipping, which is nice. And we have, we have wine clubs that are the best deal and have fun stuff involved. But it's really just depends on what people want. I'm a big fan of the wine club, but so we just educate people, and we have wine tastings, which of course we can't do right now, but eventually we'll do those again. And people just buy it online and it goes right to your door.
That's awesome. I definitely want to try it and check it out. Another request I have is at the end of your book, you have a chapter on how to clear your energy. Would you mind demonstrating that, or can we do that right now?
I do it every single morning with all my will and all my intent. I bring in all my energy. Higher self, clear all that needs to be cleared. Cut cords with the past. So I'm doing that like at my belly, at my 3rd chakra. And then covering that right over your belly button, close your eyes and visualize, some sort of coverage over that. Like, could be saran wrap, it could be, something stronger, whatever you want to cover that with. I got to start over because I just lost track. Okay, with all my will and all my intent, I bring in all my energy. Higher self, clear all it needs to be cleared. Cut cords with the past. And then visualize white light all around you. And then visualize yourself zipping up, like almost like a zipper, zipping up your energy. And then visualize your 3rd chakra opening, a flower opening and closing. And then your heart chakra, visualize it opening and closing. Now, some people say, are you closing your heart to people? No, you're always radiating out the light. But that's just setting just protecting yourself from energy that you don't necessarily want to take on. So I'm an empath, as probably most people are who are watching this, because that's why you're attracted to this information. Like if you feel things strongly, and if you kind of are in a good mood, then you spend time with someone who's in a bad mood, and afterwards you're in a bad mood, you're probably an empath. And that's wonderful that you're like that, but you just need to kind of protect your energy to make sure you don't take it on. Because the best thing you can do, everyone, especially in these times, is to come from a high vibration and to find and be the best version of your authentic self. And that is how we will heal this planet, not by going low.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. And I just want to thank you and acknowledge you for everything that you're doing, for spreading positivity and light into this world and teaching and healing people through your own experiences, and how people can learn from their own experiences as well and overcome and use the law of attraction to attract good things and happiness and really create the best life ever for themselves. So I want to thank you, and thank you for being on the podcast. Where can people find you online so they can connect with you?
So you can find me at taylorwells.me. And so I have tons of blogs on there from times past. I got to start blogging again. I've had a lot of stuff happening in a good way. Oh, one word you always want to avoid is the 4-letter B word, B-U-S-Y, busy. So instead of saying busy, you guys, this is one tiny thing you can do that will change everything. You can say, I have a full, happy plate, okay? Or you can say, I'm abundant. My best friend, Jackie, can't stand that word. She laughs about it, but so I teach people, don't use the 4-letter B word. But anyway, taylorwells.me, also scoutandseller.com/taylorwells. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And I would love to hear from all of you. And this is a nice reminder. I start blogging some more on taylorwells.me.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And remember, we're in this together. Remember to breathe. Remember, you've got this. Remember, it's one moment at a time. Remember, I'm doing the same work that we're all doing moment to moment. And remember to ask to release the past and the future and abide in the ever-present now, because you're just fine. You're doing just fine.